Anyway, yeah, so that's fun and exciting. Other announcements, no Will reads this week because normally we record on Tuesday nights, and if you're not American, Tuesday is a holiday for us. Letting you guys know, it's our Independence Day, 4th of July. It's when we celebrate, and really we just go to cookouts and light fireworks.
He's lying. Actually, go out and all individually go beat up a British person. No, I lied. That's a lie. I'm real talk. I'm sorry. That was a joke. No, but
yeah. Anyway, we love our Brits.
we do. We love y'all.
Yeah, we love giving you a hard time too. But
we do.
But yeah, so we'll be celebrating. We have like a neighborhood parade in the morning that our kids like decorate their bikes and they ride through. And
that's what's up. Nice.
Yeah, so it's a little fun. And then like we'll probably end up going to like a cookout and go to the fireworks at night. I don't know. We'll see.
And by the way, I apologize in advance because people are like throwing up like fireworks tonight.
Oh yeah,
neighborhood.
We do too.
So if you hear background noise, I do apologize in advance. I have no control over it whatsoever. So
4th of July weekend, there's gonna be lots of fireworks.
Oh yeah. So if you hear a boom in the background, I swear I'm not passing gas. Just FYI. All right.
It's that Scott Stank. That's what it is.
Oh, Scott Stank. The real Scott Stank. The real Scott Stank. No.
Awesome. All right. Without further ado, Will, we miss you. This one's for you. And we'll
yes.
Right
cheers to Will. Yes.
Here's the Will. We'll be back next week for the finale of not this book, but this section of the book. part 3. Yeah, part 3. Because we're finishing up next week. But this week we're in chapter 20.
Yes.
And things get a little bit interesting. We start with Vin traveling by, I guess, canal boat. Is it she traveling by? Yeah. Oh no, she's carriage. She's carriage.
Oh, it's okay. Carriage.
I get confused because like they're traveling different chapters. Sometimes by canal boat. Next chapter, Kelsey's on the canal boat. Anyway, so Vin's traveling by carriage from Luthadel to Felice.
And now it's starting to feel like, because at the end of every chapter, well, at least in the audiobook, at the end of every chapter, you have like those entries, from emo Lord Ruler, right?
Yeah.
But then it's like they're starting a chapter right now, and it's them reading entries from his his like emo diary, basically.
Right.
And so it almost sounds like there's like two entries like back to back.
Exactly.
But it's like it gives you heads up. It's like, hey, it's like this is like just like random text from it, and now it's like, it's Kelsey reading next chapter, but right now it's Vin reading some stuff from the diary right now. So the stuff this been translated so far.
Yeah, exactly. That gets interesting. So next chapter is when they start doing that. This one's just Vin's upset about the scenery because the scenery's dull and boring.
But she mentioned something about it. She's reading.
That's in the third chapter we covered tonight. When
I thought Vin was reading from this chapter because I wrote it down that she talks about an amorphous entity at the beginning of the chapter 20, and it sounds like the golem from Wheel of Time.
No, so that's actually the Lord Ruler. So that's not Vin. That's the insert in the book. It's the insert.
Oh, it's in the insert. Yeah. Okay. And again, I do apologize because
it isn't a shadow.
The audio book isn't quite as segmented the way it probably should be in the book. So.
It isn't. Yeah, the dark thing that follows me, the thing that I can only see, it isn't really a shadow, blackish, translucent, but it's shadow-like, solid outline.
Sound like a golem. The whole time I was reading it, I was like, yeah.
It's like it's made of dark fog. A mist, perhaps.
Yeah. Anyway,
so Vin's grown tired of the scenery between Luthadel and Felice. She's kind of sick of it. And she gets there to Luthadel and, of course, or to Felice. Sorry, she's going to Felice. She gets there and Lord Venu is there waiting for her. She steps out of the carriage and she's like, girl, you need to keep the appearances up. Go and curtsy. Like,
right, because she's almost kind of like letting it like slide a little bit. And by the way, the whole time she's like, reminiscing about her boy Elle. She's thinking about Ellen, and she's like, he's not like the other boys. That's all I kept thinking the whole time she's talking about him. He's not like the other boys. I'm like, okay, I get it. You fall and you're smitten.
Yeah, exactly. She has all these internal thoughts about Ellen, like he's not like everyone else. He's better.
Right.
And of course, Kelsier told him in the last, like, they're all the same. Like, don't fall for his ways. Like, he's just using you. Like,
right.
It's like, no, he can't be. He has to be the different one.
Yeah, and of course, put a pin in that topic because that comes up 2 chapters later.
Oh
We'll
yeah,
get there.
yeah.
Anyway,
There you
yeah.
go. She
Oh, she's
sprung.
definitely sprung. She's
She
definitely
sprung.
sprung. She's definitely sprung all day long.
Thank you, Belted Bro. um,
Yes.
yeah, so she's thinking about her boy
Yeah.
and all the good stuff. And then they get to the manor, and that's when she steps out and Lord Renews like, "Courtesy me, child. Maintain your appearances where everybody can see us. Like, you still have to play the part. Come on."
Right. Right.
And of course, Finn does it, but she's annoyed by all this.
Mm-hmm.
And Kelsier's there, and what they're doing is unloading weapons, which Finn thinks is a little foolish. And Kelsier's like, "Well, no, that's part of our plan. Like, we got to make it look like we're actually doing stuff." Like,
but I mean, because the weapons, you're buying weapons. There's got to be an explanation about where these weapons are going, and the explanation made perfect sense. I mean, at the time, I was thinking the same thing. I was like, "Why are you putting this out in the open?" But it's obvious you're getting weapons. You have to kind of give some inclination of where they're going, because you can't just be like, giving the assumption you have a stockpile, sitting in your back hut, like in the garage or something like that. Oh, I just gotta like, stockpile of weapons. You got to be like, oh yeah, actually I'm like taking these in and flipping them, making a profit. That made perfect sense to me.
The funny thing is, all the soldiers that are helping them move the weapons onto the canal barges think that Kelsier is just scamming Renault.
Right.
They all get along. They're like, "Oh, he's scamming them, and this is great. Let's get on."
Yeah. Yes. Oh, by the way, and back up just a second. Again, going back to my Scotch thing, because I'm into all these like minutia details.
Sure.
When she talks about how the noble people can wash the ash out their clothes, but everybody else cannot because they don't have the detergents to be able to do that. So they're walking around, which explains the Scotch stank. Because they can't get it out their clothes. It's just like stuck in their clothing. Whereas the noble people, they can like get like the special, like, Tide pods. There's like the anti-ash pod, and they can like wash it all out of their clothes. And it's like, even though they had like white clothes, they can wash it out completely. I was like, makes perfect sense. Yeah.
Anyway. And this is where Kelsier also announces that we are going to the caves, and Vin goes, "We?" And just, "Oh, you're worried about not going to your balls?" No. We're not taking you. We're taking Eden.
She is getting into this whole like lifestyle though.
Oh yes,
she's gotten acclimated. So poor thing.
Yeah,
and she's so torn because she wants to feel like she's part of the people, but she knows she has gotten kind of swept up in this whole lifestyle of the aristocracy, and I can see that being like it's enticing, and she is just so indoctrinated in the everything that they do, the morals, the edicts, all that stuff, and she's like, it's hard to break away from that. And she even talks about that a few times, how she's like, I'm just so in this this momentum of this thing. I don't know how I can break away. You know? So poor thing.
Yeah.
And she's only like what, 17?
Yeah.
Something like that. So, imagine me a 17-year-old and you like had like everything you knew about how you lived get flipped on its head.
Right.
And now you're being like taken care of by servants and driven around in, carriages, and people are like doting on you, and you're going to dances, and like you don't smell like the sky anymore. I mean, yeah, I can see that you would get changed up pretty quick. So I see what she's talking about.
Yeah. And here's where she learns that he's going with Eden and with Marsh. Kelsier says, "I'm taking my brother with me because we're going to drop him off at some place where he's going to start his infiltration of the ministry."
Right.
But Marsh wants to teach you a few things. So Vin, glad you're here because we're going to train you on seeking.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Why?" Like, Kelsier's like, "Well, it's not the least important. Marsh says there's some things I can teach you, but I think it's pretty useless." Kelsier doesn't have much use for it, I guess. He doesn't think too much of that allomantic ability, but Marsh tends to think that there's more to it than Kelsier thinks.
And there's that sibling rivalry thing comes into play definitely right here. It's like two brothers, like, one's like, what he's doing is not that important. The other one's like, well, he's kind of reckless and blah blah blah. And it's like you can just see it's just like coming through with this idea of training her. So makes perfect sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, he's late. Marsh is late, and they're sitting there waiting. And while they're waiting, she starts to have this inner dialogue go on again. Like, is Kelsey right? Am I coming to enjoy being a noble woman? Once her problems have been starvation and beatings, now they were things like extended carriage rides and companions who arrived late to appointments.
Right. Yes. That inner turmoil. I mean,
yeah.
It's almost like somebody coming out the hood and being like, I'm not hood anymore. And she's like, oh, but I got to make sure I remember that I'm from the streets, and but she's in a different place now.
Completely.
Yeah.
And she's struggling with that.
Has she been playing the noble woman too much?
Yeah. Has she been playing the noble woman too much lately? Is that
right? That's right. I forgot about it. She said that. She's like when she had like self-doubt.
Right.
Like a little bit. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And then she told herself, he's forgotten you. He's barely spoken to you during the last 3 parties. Keep your head on, Vin. It's just another scam like all the games. So she's having this back and forth with her thoughts about Ellen. Like, does he love me? Does he love me not? Does he love me? Does he love me not?
I mean, and I feel like this is like just that teenage. This is stuff teenagers go through.
Sure.
It's like it's young love, and she doesn't know, and she's thinking to herself, he's not thinking about me. He was just playing me like everybody else. Because of course she kept getting all these people keep coming to her and saying, "Oh, he's a player. He's a player." Shorty, don't even get into that situation. He doesn't care about you. But she feels like there was a connection there, and there's more to it. And she's just it's typical young love, self-doubt, poor thing.
Right.
But us readers are not fooled. We know there's more there.
Oh sure.
Because we
100%.
obviously know a little bit more of the inner dialogue that's going on.
Yeah.
For the other side of the tracks there. So
oh yeah. Yep. And then during this time, speaking of the other side, she starts listening to some of the ska talking, flaring 10.
Yeah.
And she can hear them. There's like, oh, it's him. It's definitely him. I saw the scars. The survivor. That's it.
Yeah.
And she has this like realization because that's why the rebellion's not gaining momentum. Kelsier is.
Man, he's gaining like his like whole like legendary status right now.
Right. So how much is it Kelsier's ego versus actually in a rebellion? And Vin starts to I think Vin's starting to sow some seeds of doubt on the whole thing. Like, because we'll get to this later, but like Ham has a whole conversation with Kelsier about doubting all this.
Because it comes up, it comes up a few times. Yeah.
It comes up a few times. Like, what's the true motivation? Is this Kelsier's just ego? Is that what we're doing all this? Is just for one man's ego?
Yeah.
Is he that twisted? Or is there really something behind this? And Vin starts to question this here. Like, she's like, so he's doing all this for clout. Just for
and it's understandable. I mean, because the stuff he's been doing, I mean, we talking about taking out some of these noble people. It's pretty amazing stuff. I mean, he's going into places and just like slaughtering folks and like, robbing them for all the goods. And this is something that, you can't imagine a ska doing. And he's like this legendary ska now. I mean, we've kept talking about this like week over week about how he's just built this legendary status. And I'm not surprised that they all think it's like, oh, well, he's the man.
Right.
And you are trying to build a rebellion, but he is the dude that has basically been the seed of inception for this whole, movement. And it makes sense, that he would have this legendary status. And I'm glad they put that in there that, that's the kind of talk that would go around, because if it was happening in real life right now in the streets, that's the way we would be talking about it too, So, especially since he's the only person who has ever come from basically what is the end all be all death pit,
right?
Of society. So,
I was raised in the darkness.
Yeah, it's true. Oh, and we'll get to that a little bit later too. Talking about that whole situation, because we get more light on that.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Definitely. So the Marsh shows up. She has some more thoughts about her brother. Just about and thinks about like trust and about, are these really friends? She's come to like all these people. She thinks about the whole crew, and she's like, yeah, they're really crew. They're like family, and this is just so bizarre. And she can just hear her brother's voice in her head again. Is that a good enough reason to let them get you killed? Like, that's her brother's voice in her head. So,
right.
Like, don't trust anyone. Trust no one.
And she keeps coming back to that.
Yeah, she keeps coming back to it.
Yeah.
So Marsh arrives, and they start having a little teaching moment. I think it's at this point when you realize she says, they said something like, "You're 16." You're like, "Oh, actually, turned 17 like a few weeks ago."
Right. Because, and I think it's oh shoot,
oh no, it was it Renew?
The young dude who comes at her and tries to court her.
Spook.
Yeah, Spook. Thank you. Because she's like, he's 15. He's like, well, you're only 16. She's like, well, actually, I turned 17.
Yeah.
Like last week. Happy birthday to me, by the way. That kind of thing. So, yeah. What's his name? It's like
Mistborn is.
Mistborn is. Which is a great name, by the way. I gotta make sure. Spook is too easy, but Mistborn is a badass name. Real talk. I love Mistborn is. So, yeah.
But yeah, so they go, Marsh and meet, on the balcony, and they start talking about, lots of Mistborns neglect bronze because they like, why do I need to use bronze?
Right.
And Marsh is trying to make the mistake. That's a mistake that Mistborns are making because it's such.
And kind of dismissing bronze and copper a little bit,
right?
But I love that his explanation of it was so great because it really makes these internal capabilities make so much more sense, and it shows how much more depth and the more things you can accomplish with those things than the stuff that's like more external, like being able to like manipulate the way you move based on like steel or using tin.
People's emotions are enhancing your enhancing your senses or making you strong
things which are getting overlooked. He's like, oh, you really need to pay attention to this, and he really does a great job. Again, Brandon Sanderson breaking it down really, really well.
Sure.
It's like it's a demarcation, and he's like, okay, well, this stuff is up here and this stuff is down here, but it doesn't mean it's less than. It just means internal. But when you start thinking about internal and how you can actually use that to manipulate your environment, and it made so much sense to me. I was like, yes, that's the stuff you have to be quietly afraid of, because you don't know. I mean, he gives very, specific instances about how you can really cause some damage, and I love it. So
yeah, and Vin trying to push back. She says, but don't other Mistborns know to burn copper? So like, what bronzes be useless because they burn copper, and I won't be able to use bronze,
right?
And he says, Marsh says, I see you're already thinking like them. He says, a lot of times they don't even burn copper, because they get so used to not burning it. He says, and not everyone's a Mistborn girl. They're rare. Like most people just missing. It's like they can't just burn copper everywhere.
Yeah.
So yeah. We'll just comment. Whenever I read fantasy series and someone brings up a power that is dismissive power like bronze and copper, I always assume it's a super secret power. Yeah, super secret useful.
Exactly. Yeah. That's exactly the way I felt about it too when I was listening to it. I was like, because I will admit, when I first learned what all the metals do, I was dismissive. I was like, oh, okay, great. Whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, because you go for the flash.
So obviously. This one can make me fly and throw cool objects like lightning fast and shoot people down. And this one can like make me super strong like the Hulk. Okay.
Right. Or I can manipulate you and make you do things. I can make you start a riot, or I can make you come along with my cause.
Yeah.
I mean,
and then you have this one.
Easy to dismiss
I can sense other people. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Right. You're like, oh, okay, great. I can sense that you're like burning and stuff. Okay, good call, I guess. But really, it can be extremely powerful, and I'm so glad it was explained. Early on.
And Marsh explains this. She says, well, wouldn't it be good to know before you walk into the room that the person behind the door is either like going to be a thug or a coin shot? Like you're prepared to walk through, like know what capabilities he has. If you're walking through the door and they're thugs, they're pewter guys that are going to be big and tough and going to fight fists versus a coin shot, which is going to throw metal at you. You can prepare before opening that door exactly what you're going to be ready to do.
Yep.
And so it's like, okay, that makes sense. And she goes, all right, so let's try something. All right, I'm going to start burning and you turn on your bronze and see if you can. She's like, I feel 2. She's like, oh, you've done this before. She goes, no. She goes, interesting. Like, so I feel Kelsier, one's pushing, one's pulling, it's like, okay, good. And she picks out which, she can't pick out which ones they are. She picks out 2 different sources. And he's like, that's already a good one. And it's like, now can you tell the difference? She's like, no, I can't tell the difference. And she's like, yeah, eventually you can tell length differences between the pulses, and like that will tell you what different types they are.
I felt like she said something about being able to feel like how much was like one was like a little more powerful than the other.
Yeah, one was pushing, one was pulling. She felt that much.
Oh, that's what it was. Right. Pushing, pulling. Yes.
So she could identify it was one of those sets of metals and one of those, like not down to the individual metal. He said it took him 6 months to figure that out, but you can figure out exactly what someone else is doing, which is pretty cool. I mean, to know whether someone's riding or soothing you, like because you can just turn on your bronze and if you know what to look for, you can sense all those things.
Again, a lot more powerful than you think it is initially. So, I mean, great power to have. So,
So it tries to do all that, and then of course, Finn tries to flip the script a little bit. Decides to try to soothe Marsh to get him to open up.
Yeah, which works initially, by the way.
For a while.
This guy is pretty stoic, and he don't say much. And all of a sudden, he started becoming like a water hose turned on.
Yeah,
he's sharing all the information.
They finally said, "Are you?"
And he's finally like, "Wait a minute,
wait a minute." Me? And she's like, "Yes." He's like,
"Stop like, did you get me drunk?"
Stop it right now. He doesn't. She does it too. Like,
So, and she's like, "Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
And then he was like, "This is the second time you did that to me," and I was like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah.
And then, sure enough, just like the reader, she's like, "Oh, I forgot you were in the shop earlier." And we met earlier, and I was like, "Oh, that's right, they did meet." Earlier in the book, completely forgot about that. Which great callback, by the way. Well written, good callback on that. So
and she asks about Kelsey and his relationship, and did you hate Kelsey? No, I never hated him. There's a lot, but you could sense there's a little bit of pain there, and it gets back to that late in this chapter.
Yeah,
and they start opening up a little bit about just life in general. I mean, she talks about her brother in this scene, and why she trusted her brother so much. It wasn't that she trusted, her brother beat her and everything like that, but her brother also saved her from her mother, who had killed her younger sister,
like left her younger sister sitting at her feet and was holding her,
pierced her ear, and said, in dabbling, you're going to be a queen.
You're going to be a queen. And I was like, okay, that's new.
So Reen took her and ran away with her from her crazy mother. So,
And by the way, I can't remember if it happens in this chapter later or not, but she's like, hates him. She admits it, like openly. She's like, I hate him.
Yeah, no, this one.
Okay. Yeah, but she's like, I hate him. And I was like, yeah, I would. Yeah, he gave her great information and skills and what have you to live by. But she does not love this dude at all. She's like, no, I was like,
yeah, I hate my brother.
But this guy hasn't been like the best. He's not a loving influence in her life, and so she's like, I really don't care for him like that, which I understand.
Yeah. And Marsh is just listening, kind of quiet, and this is when he starts talking about her brother, Kelsey as a brother.
Yeah,
and Marsh is like, he just wishes that he wouldn't treat people like playthings.
Yeah.
And says, I know I've killed obligators and murdering men because he said, but murdering men because they're noble? Marsh stops and goes, it's not all. It's not, and that's not all. He likes people to fawn over him.
Yeah.
And that's when Vince's like, do I detect jealousy in his voice? Like,
but the thing is, though, Marsh is saying things that I have been saying about Kelsier. I mean, he's too reckless.
Yeah.
I just don't know what his I don't know if he's like completely aligned with the mission or if it's just like personal interest. Well, I don't know. And I'm trying to make sure I understand, whether this is like all like altruistic or which I really right now I'm still on the fence about how altruistic Kelsier is. Everything that Marsh says right now is like it's like pulling from like my mindgasm. I'm like, yeah, he's on the same page as me right now. So yeah, I get where Marsh is coming from. Completely get where Marsh is coming from.
And she detects jealousy then because she starts talking about, the pits changed him and when her death, and he paused.
Of course, now
and that pause was like, he was like, oh, Marsh had a thing for her too. Yes. Okay, that's it. That's
the shoe that drops.
Yeah.
And it makes perfect sense all this time because it's like you don't realize how many times he's been talking about Mare, and then right now, shoe drop moment, it's like, oh, you were really into this lady. She did not choose you. And now she aligned with your brother and she got killed.
The perfect comment. Kelsier is very altruistic to Kelsier.
Oh, that's true. That's true. I can't deny that in any way, shape, or form. Yeah, he definitely has right now. He's got one lord he follows, Lord Kelsier. That's who Kelsier follows.
Yeah. But she even asked him about like he's gonna end up getting us all killed, right, or something like, or no, that's what Marsh says.
Right.
He's
Marsh
trying to do something good, but he's probably gonna get himself killed during it. And then Vin's like, why do you go along with it if you think it's gonna fail? And because he's gonna get me in the ministry, and that alone can help me further the rebellion for centuries more than anything else. So
in that part, I mean, of course, it doesn't really get fleshed out a lot, but I'm really curious about that. He's like, okay, you're gonna get me in the door. And then for centuries later, which makes it sound like he's expecting the rebellion to fail. And that for some reason he's going to be entrenched and be able to affect things for a while, for centuries. I'm like, I don't get that. I know it's not for me to get right now, but I'm curious as to how that works out. So wait and see. Yep.
Yeah, so right now he's playing one of his parts as Renu's distant relative, the man that has to leave before someone connects him as the survivor.
Yeah.
When Kel gets back, he'll keep a low profile. And I think at that they pretty much end their conversation.
Yeah.
He just says, practice what I taught you. Get better at it.
Right.
And they say their farewells and head up. Yeah.
And it's good that other people are also noticing that Kel he's out there, man. He is not like keeping it low profile at all. This guy is out in the streets and is getting noticed by everybody. How cavalier, again, I know I have said this word 7,000 times on this podcast. He is so cavalier and out there and like not hiding his presence in any way, shape, or form. And is causing concern, that he's all over the place. Now when it comes to this guy, that's a great thing that he's all over the place, because it's like it brings a lot of attention to this legendary figure that they can align behind. But when it comes to his enemies, I mean, that's got to be dangerous. So I keep waiting for. I mean, these people have, and I know I'm doing a bunch of conjecture right now.
Oh, sure.
But I feel like this is setting up all his enemies with the capability to identify where he's going to be at, plan accordingly, and take him out, because he is not being secretive with anything he's doing. I'm like, just be a little bit more subversive with what you're doing, but he's just like out in the open. And I just feel like it's just super dangerous.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So anything from this that we missed, or anything that?
Let me look at my notes, make sure I didn't miss anything. So yeah. By the way, so in this chapter, I remember the mayor's sacrifice was brutal. That was brutal. Her saying that she actually, her giving the impression that she had two of those
ATM beads.
ATM. No, but what's the actual thing called? The core
beads.
There's a specific name they use for him. I cannot remember, but anyway, but then she had 2, and then she didn't have a second one, and then she got beat to death in front of him, and I was like, oh no, that's brutal. It's kind of a throwaway line in the book, but really brutal to think about, and it makes all the sense why he's just so jaded about everything.
There's a good question. Is Kelsier actually selfish, or does he not just give a shit about other people's if people understand his plans?
It's definitely what you're saying, Thatcher. I mean, real talk. I mean, it's definitely what you're saying. He is in I don't give a fucksville is where he's at right now, which is unfortunate for the people who have aligned with him, because again, he continues to just do whatever he wants to do regardless of the impact of everybody else.
Yeah.
So yeah. By the way, the other thing that when I read this chapter, or maybe am I getting ahead of myself? Because I feel like I was going to talk about them going down in the caves.
That's next chapter.
Okay, I wrote it down in my notes for chapter 21.
Oh, we're on chapter 21. Let's start that.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
20. Yeah.
Oh, 20. Okay, gotcha. Okay, and I wrote in a note that Kelsier's theme song should be Destiny's Destiny Child, a survivor. I'm a survivor. Yeah, I wrote that note down, and nice. And I wrote down the fact, of course, Marsh is very distrustful of Kelsier.
Yeah.
No surprise there. Everybody's distrustful of Kelsier.
Yeah.
And the other thing I picked up on was Marsh recognizing that Vin was probably burning metals before she even knew how, because she was probably picking up metals in like silverware and stuff like that. And I was like, that's pretty freaking cool. So even though she didn't know what she was doing, and he made it clear, he's like, oh yeah, there's a reason why you survived the stuff you've been through. You've been burning metals to get through situations, and you didn't even know what's happening. Yeah. Exactly. And I was like, oh, that's brilliant. Because I mean, and it's been proven, I mean, even us as individuals, every time you eat off of a fork or something, a little bit of the metal comes off.
Yeah. When and iron from meats, you get all sorts of different trace metals.
Trace metals
from water.
And so those trace metals, if you think about it in this world, it would actually, if you were able to burn that little bit of like copper, tin, bronze, whatever is in the silverware comes off of the plates. Anybody who's gotten a plate and it has that metal, like the little metal ring on it, it's like a little adornment kind of thing, and then it like wears down over time. That metal had to go somewhere,
right?
Part of it's in your body, and it makes perfect sense. Anyway, I just love that line too.
Little tidbit, yeah.
That was great. Yep.
So we start chapter 21 with another quote from the book or from the journal. The
book of the emo.
Yeah, the hero of ages shall not be a man, but a force. No nation may claim him. No woman shall keep him. No king may slay him. He shall belong to none, not even himself.
Yeah.
Kelsier sat quietly reading along the canal. So now we go into another excerpt that Kelsier's reading. This is what you were talking about.
Yes.
And this one's about him talking about Rashik, his Terrace man, who's watching him from behind. He doesn't trust him at all, but it's his Pac-Man that's kind of carrying everything for him, but always looking at his back with jealous, mocking, hating. And at the end, I wonder if my arrogance will destroy us all. As what Kelsier read. And Kelsier lowers the book, and and he's in there like, how can this be the Lord Ruler? Like, this is not the guy that like we all hate. Like, he seems so human, and like the person that we know to be the Lord Ruler is just so evil. Like, this seems like yeah.
And Rashik, of course, this is like not the first time we've heard that name, because I had written it down chapters ago.
Right.
And I'm like, of course I got the whole Rashik question mark thing. I'm like, who's Rashik?
Yeah.
And I'm like, it just comes up too often. This is gonna be somebody major. Don't know who yet. And every time I hear anything from this book, all I think of is the from the South Park kids, the emo kids just got the hair like this. He keeps doing this thing just over and over again. He's like, yo, so I'm like feeling like kind of down today, and that kind of thing. He's like, anyway. But that's all I think about every time I listen to this. But whoever is writing this, we know it's the Lord Ruler. I mean, I feel pretty confident about this.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's a lot more torn, and so I'm like, the thing I said earlier was I was like, I feel like somebody was starting to write these passages,
and
then they're talking about the Lord Ruler, and then the Lord Ruler gets involved in writing some of the passages because some of them are kind of written from the Lord Ruler's perspective. He's like, I've got to do this thing so that way I can save the world.
Right.
And then other times it's like, I got to make sure, I keep this dude in check. And I'm like, I mean, it almost sounds like the Lord Ruler with bipolar disorder, to be dead honest with you. So that's what I'm getting at right now.
Interesting.
But I know it's probably not right because it doesn't sound right, only because the way the names are written out, I'm like, that's not aligning. But anyway, that's my theory right now.
Rapho, and
I'll definitely Raph. Everything. Let's just assume everything's got a subtext of Rapho.
Exactly. So Kelsier, he thinks that the Lord Ruler was less of a man, more of a creature, an evil force to be destroyed. And reading his logbook just makes me question everything. The man seemed to have depth and character, and he's like, man, this is not the person I've grown up knowing and hating. Like, it's eerie to him.
Yeah.
And still the Lord Ruler's story reminded Kelsier of the legends he had heard. Stories whispered by Ska, discussed by nobles, and memorized by keepers. That claimed that before the Ascension, the Lord Ruler was one of the greatest of men, beloved leader, and man entrusted to the fate of all mankind.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Kelsier knew how the story ended. The final empire.
But it's 1,000 years. I mean, this person's like immortal. So think about that. I mean, over 1,000 years. I mean, how would you change over 1,000 years?
Right.
So that's, who knows?
Who knows?
So, I'm waiting to find out.
Waiting to find out.
Yep.
Yeah. So they're traveling along the canal, and finally they pull up to where they are supposed to go, and they get off, and I guess Kelsier does his little coin thing to like signify that, like, hey, we're here.
Yeah.
And they come out, Lord Kelsier, and take them back to where the caves are. So
getting down these caves. Ugh.
Yeah. Have you ever been spelunking?
Dude, so if I can go ahead and do my little side comments here.
Tangent away.
I suffer from claustrophobia. Terrible. Like, I got stuck in an elevator in Panama with my wife in the dark. It like turned off. Luckily, I had my watch on me. It was the only thing that would call. My phone didn't work. We were able to call 911 and get saved. Thank goodness. However, every time I was reading this thing, and I was like, and they were talking about the orifice they had to go through, which is basically just big enough for like a large man to go through. All I could think about was this guy, and I read this story. His name was John Edward Jones.
Okay.
And so he was in Utah, and it's called the Nutty Putty Cave, I believe it is.
Okay.
He went down this cave, went down the wrong turn.
Yeah.
Got stuck. They tried to extract him. And I'm talking about they like broke bones trying to extract him. Eventually, they were like, no, there's nothing we can do.
Yeah.
They basically stayed with him until he died, and then they just like cemented the whole thing over.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is like my worst nightmare. And I'm like having like PTSD, even though I was not even in the situation. I'm like, no, I cannot. We're talking about thousands of people going down into these caves, but the orifice to get down in there is basically small enough to just fit like one person at a time. Nope.
Yeah. I've done a few caving stuff before. Most of them have had pretty large entrances and like nothing where I had to squeeze through. I wouldn't do that. The most freakiest one I ever went to is a cave we found.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we found a cave one time, and I'm pretty sure no one else knows about this cave. And if they do, it was one of those things where so we were hiking near the West Virginia border, in the Shenandoah, and there was a waterfall off the trail a little bit, and we decided to go swim in the hole, underneath the waterfall, and we're just playing around. It's one of the people we were with goes to the ledge and just hangs on, and her feet goes underneath the ledge.
Yeah.
And we're like, well, it goes back a ways there. So like we dove down to see how far it went.
Right.
Held our breath, and in about 10 feet, you popped up. And it was all pitch black. So then we swam back out, went back to our campsite, took plastic bags or whatever, wrapped flashlights, went back in, and it was this giant underwater entrance cave.
Wow.
So it was underwater by a waterfall. I know how to get there. I won't tell anybody else how to get there because it's super dangerous to ever go into a cave that has a water entrance.
Yes.
And we freaked out after about 5 minutes. We were just in the opening room. We didn't go back into the cave at all because we just got, it was a giant open room. Like, I mean, like the first part we went into was really big, cavern. And when you go further back in, because we started freaking out about the fact that it was an underwater entrance, and we all knew, most of us were experienced hikers enough to know that that's extremely dangerous.
Yes.
Because if there's even the slightest bit of rain and it starts to flood, what was a 10 feet swim in can now become a half a mile swim out, and you ain't getting out of there.
That's the reason why kids, if you listen to this, do not try this at home. Do not
try this at home.
Don't be like that Thailand soccer team.
What underwater entrances? Yeah, it can be like it doesn't have to rain the area. If it's just somewhere upstream, it rains. It can flood the entrance to the point where it like
that's
10
what I was
feet goes
just
to
getting
half a
ready to
mile.
say.
Like
it could be like rain, like a state away in some instances. Enough water will actually rush down and flood places that you don't even realize.
Yeah.
Do not play with that stuff. So
because 1 inch of water rise could be miles underwater in cave systems. So freaked out, and we went right back out because we're like, this is not safe. So I mean, I know how to get back there, but
good call on your part. You leave immediately.
Like eventually we're like, let's go explore it. And then I started thinking, I was like, no, this is a really bad idea, guys. Let's get out of here.
Nope.
And I started thinking about it. I was like, yeah, I've heard stories. Like, no, let's get out.
And those stories
I'm pretty sure
there's a lot of those stories out there too.
Yeah. I mean, it might be one of those type of caves where no people have actually ever explored because it is an underwater entrance. I mean, there might be other ways to get into that cave. I don't know. We didn't stay long enough, but freaky. So I've done a little bit of spelunking in my days. That's the freakiest one. But and I don't do the super tight space stuff. But I'll do more open. Like there's the Cascades, which are out by Roanoke, Virginia.
Yes,
that's you do caving there, and there's a little crawling, but no like on your belly squeezing through.
Right.
So.
Yeah, or like the guy I'm talking about, where it's like he's like going and having to like twist his body to get through and stuff, and he like had to twist his body at a 70-degree angle to get through a particular orifice. I'm like, at that point in time, if you have to, number one, if you're like on your like belly going through something, I'm already like, nope, I'm not gonna do it. But the fact you have to twist through it, I'm like, how do you get back out of it? Because I mean, going in one way, I mean, the human body like twists one way from the torso is different than trying to go back out. It's twist a different way. Yeah. And maybe the torso is not able to get through that, which is unfortunate what happened to this guy. So
Yep. Yeah. So then we get to meet young.
Glad we gave everybody nightmares.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
What's that horror movie? The Descent?
Yeah, The Descent.
Like the underground creatures living.
Great movie. That movie was so much better than everybody thought it was going to be.
That's great. Anyway.
Go ahead. Sorry.
So we get to meet another French name. So we have Renaud now, and now we have Demu.
Who, by the way, because of course I'm listening to audiobook, the whole time listening to this, I was like, is he Terrace? I'm like, because the way that the accent is read, it counts. It because Renaud sounds like a nobleman. Yeah. What's his name? Lenu? This guy? Demu. Sorry. Thank you.
Both Renaud and Demu in with X's. It's the French spelling of
right. But he sounded the way that the person reading the audiobook did the inflection of his accent. I was like, it sounded like almost like Terrace. I was like, oh, that's interesting. I was like kind of wondering, is there like something going on there? I didn't want to read any more into it than that, since there wasn't any more like really like any clues or anything. But I wrote it down just in case if it comes back up later. So
Yeah. And Kelsey is surprised that he's captain. Captain? The young man, must, is be so disciplined to be, barely in his early 20s. He's already captain. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Kelsey thinks, well, younger men have led men in battles before, so whatever. Look at Vin. She's only 16. Already a match for Marsh in seriousness.
Yeah, but she also has capabilities beyond capabilities too.
Sure. Yeah. So they go through like this super roundabout passage, like through the forest, and they eventually get to the cave entrance. And like you said, they squeeze through and get in and go through. And it reminds Kelsey of the pits because it's a lot like the cracks that they would go into.
Right.
But it's just. But at the same time, this looks like a good, good for protection. It'll be tough for anyone to try to find them and root them out.
Right.
It looks like a pretty extensive cave system. So yeah.
And I feel like there's a little bit of complacency here. Like, oh, well, if this army came and tried to attack us here, that'd be a problem. And I was like, yeah, an army of people that have, let's just whittle it down to explosive capabilities. I mean, come on. I mean, they're going to blow up that daggone crack once they figure out. I was like, okay, that's a little complacent. Don't do that. But luckily, you talk about, then later on, Kelsey talks about, we're going to like send up a, couple troops of like 100 people or whatever, just walk through the trees and stuff to like lay out these like false paths and trails. And I was like, okay, that's a smart move. That way, if anybody's in the area, there's not like it's like beeline of like ant paths coming straight to the freaking like opening or something. So
yeah, and then you learn that everyone that enters the caves can't come back out without express permission.
Oh,
yeah. And the Kelsey are kind of testing it. I was like, what if I wanted to leave? And they're like, the answer's no.
Right. He's like, hey, my boy, pop quiz. What would you do? And he's like, well. He's like, the answer's no. You don't let me out. I was like, okay,
yeah,
good call on your part. I mean, you guys think. But the idea of being underground, no sunlight, no exposure, and you signed up for something, and you're going to have some people that are going to be a little discontent, which comes up.
Yeah. And I guess 240 new recruits with it, and Ham's surprised, like, oh, recruitment's picking up, kind of surprised by that, and they go down, Yeaton's amazed at how big the caverns are. And it's like, this is amazing. No wonder really can't find it down here. I get lost myself. And Ham says, yeah, the complex is completely secure. There's only 3 entrances and they're all guarded.
Right.
Yeah. And that's where they talk about their system that they have to letting people out, or it's not like one of those things where it's easily done. And they go down to, the larger cavern,
right.
Where it's kind of like the training hall and everybody's training down there, and doing their normal training. And that's when Kelsey comes down to give like his little speech about, hey, I'm here. This is what's going on.
Right. I'm still trying to figure out how are they building anything down there if the opening is only like a wide enough to let a person in. I was like, how are they getting anything in there to build? I mean, because they're sitting at tables and whatever, and I was like, come on, how are you guys
one board at a time?
I guess, but I'm like, holy crap, there's a lot to squeeze through a little opening. So, I hope they can,
yeah,
maybe one of the other openings is bigger than the others,
and maybe,
I'm not aware of that, because it's not really explicitly said.
Yeah,
but I'm kind of like thinking to myself, I was like, how does that work?
Yeah.
Anyway.
And Ham kind of gives them a report, says, hey, they're starting to feel like soldiers down here, rather than working the mills and fields. But
yeah,
I don't know how well they'll do an actual battle. And then Kel's like, well, if they do everything right, they shouldn't have to. The pits are only guarded by a couple hundred soldiers, because the Lord Ruler doesn't want to put a lot of people there to draw attention to it.
Right.
They said, we can just overwhelm them, with 9,000 people, like a big army, and they'll just fold.
Right.
And then once the garrisons move, we retreat, and no bloodshed needs to be had at all. And Ham kind of looks uncertain, so Kelsey presses a little further, and he's like, "You realize you're going to get them all slaughtered, right, Kel?" And he's like, "What do you mean?" It's like 10,000 men cannot hold Luthadel from the armies. Like, they're going to be all slaughtered.
Yeah.
And Kelsey kind of like flipping about it. He's like, I don't think so. I think we'll be good.
Yeah, he does not care about the collateral, the fodder. He is just
and
like,
Ham's like, I've grown to like my men, and I
yeah.
don't want to lead them to the slaughter, like
Mm-hmm.
for your cause.
Mm-hmm.
And Kelsey was really flipping about it, like, yeah, whatever.
And that's
The
about
ends justify the means.
Yep, and that's going to come up in just a few minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, because the whole Bill, yeah, what's it, Bilge,
Bilge, yeah,
Bill,
Bilge,
yeah,
yeah.
Bill, yeah. Anyway, so it's going to come up in a few
Mm-hmm.
minutes, but yeah, that's the way he is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, and of course, Kel's having a few different like flashbacks and everything like that to being down the pits because being down here, and there's a little bit of that going on.
Mm-hmm.
And they finally get to the room, and Kel has this plan. Anything before that? Before we get to his whole thing with Bilge.
It was just more about the mayor's sacrifice thing comes up. I remember had that like in there.
Yeah.
Which again, that was just brutal. Just to hear that was just rough. That was, I get it. I get how that can shape and alter a man in general to experience that. That sacrifice. I mean, that's rough. That is extremely rough. The person that you love and sacrificing themselves for you.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what that would do to a person.
Right. And they do get into the conversation of the difference between Nolan and Ska here as well.
Yes,
they had a deep conversation about like it's not just culture. Like there used to be a height difference. I mean, I know there's been a lot of interbreed. It's not as big of a thing anymore, but
right.
And Kel's kind of like shrugs it all off, and he's like, and he says, "What about Alamancy?" And Kelsey frowns. He goes, "I got a point there."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it comes to like the generational, it's like
because they're talking about the birth rates.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. Like the Nomen don't breed as much. Is it intentional? Because there'll always be enough Ska to take care of the Nomen, or be able to serve the Nomen, and is that why? I've seen Ska women have 12 kids. And it's rare you'll see an old man with more than 2.
Yeah, and that's going to come up later in the next chapter.
So,
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And Kelsey finally does says, no, it's not right. It's hard to see. But there's something very seriously wrong with the way Ska live. You have to believe that.
Right.
And Ham agrees to that. And then we go down into the main hall where we have the speech and where Kelsier says, "Hey, pick out someone that you think might be a dissenter."
Right.
And he's like, "We got this guy." He goes, "No, too scrawny." He's like, "Well, that guy over there." He's like, "Perfect." He goes, "That dude's huge."
Yeah, he picks a scrawny guy. He was like, nah. I need someone to be a challenge.
Yeah.
Then he picks out Bilge, and I'm like,
and starts riding Bilge, as he's talking.
And the whole time, I mean, it was like the easiest telegraphed freaking play. It's like I knew exactly what Kelsey was about to do.
Yeah.
And then we go back to our boy, Mr. French. Yeah. We're gonna call him Mr. French for a second here. And he was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and he's gonna be my emissary in this or representation in this fight." Yeah. And I was like, okay, so what's the trick? He's gonna use his Alamancy obviously to manipulate the fight. And I was like, that's I was like, to what end? It because that means the fight's not legit. And I'm like, okay.
Hey, the first rule of Fight Club is we don't talk about Fight Club, right?
Yeah, so that's true. That's true.
Second rule is we do not talk about Fight Club.
Yeah, so but the thing is though, he also purposely riled this dude up using Alamancy. So he used Alamancy to rile him up to get into a confrontation. Then picks an emissary to be in this fight or a representation or proxy, I guess is a better term, a proxy to use in this combat. This is basically Game of Thrones, we're talking about some, just somebody choosing, somebody be like, "Oh, I want to choose my man from Dorne to represent me." And then they get into this fight. My man gets his arm broken. He's bleeding and what have you. All of this manipulation comes from Kel. Kel is manipulating. I mean, and at some point in time, he has him fling his sword back because that's the way he's actually using, I think it was iron or steel, whichever one it was.
Push or pull,
Yeah, to push him back. And then my man's like holding his hand to make it look like he's the one that did it. And I'm like, well, but now you're giving this false impression like he actually has Alamansy, which obviously he does not.
No.
And the whole thing, I'm like, to what end? And at the end of this fight, the false impression is that, oh, you can transfer your powers over to someone else. I'm like, no, that's not what happened. I'm like, you have like set these people up for failure.
Even worse, when Bill was down on the ground on his back and Demi was above him, like Kelsier tried to push the blade in.
You're right, because he was trying to kill him.
Bill, and the guy refused. And
he refused, and I was like, thank you that he refused. I was like, you don't kill your own.
Being psychopathic.
It's already bad enough. You broke his arm, and he's bleeding all over the place. But I mean, and by the way, I think I said exposed bone, unless I remember incorrectly. And I'm like, and then you were ready to kill him.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh my god, dude, are we serious right now? Are we serious? How? Why?
Yeah. Kelsier thinks this is enough, and releases Demi's weapon eventually. And then that's when Kelsier stands in front and it's like, do you think I will send you against the Lord Ruler unprepared? Do you think it'll be simple to send you off to die? You fight for what is just, man. You fight for me. Anyway. And this is where Demi says, he gave me the power, blah, blah, blah. And Ham looks at him and is like, what are you doing to my man? He goes, and that's where he turns and gets the famous line. He's like, these are my men. So what it did to my men.
Yeah. The whole thing.
I lied to my army. He's like, you lied to my army. You lied to the army? He's like, no, I lied to my army. And Ham's not happy with his answer.
All I think of is everything that was said the last chapter about how the ego just gets out of control.
Yeah. Yep.
Anyway, the whole time I'm listening to all this, I'm just like nervous as heck. I'm like, Kel, what are you doing?
Even Ham asked that. So you think this is about your ego, Ham snapped? Because Kelsier shook his head. Sometimes we need to do things we find distasteful, Ham. My ego may be considerable, but this is something else entirely.
And Ham sounds like he is like the quintessential, well put together, well dressed general. He's like a guy that takes this seriously. He takes military seriously. I mean, this guy is on point when it comes to handling an army, and Kel is not there. And that's fine that Kel has these capabilities, but capabilities doesn't mean all of a sudden you can run or be a leader. And maybe he has some ideas about how to actually, take everything out, take everything down. But it doesn't mean he's a good leader. And I just feel like this is evidence of that. I just keep coming back to this whole idea of him being too cavalier. And he rushes into these situations headstrong. He doesn't care about sharing his ideas. He doesn't care about trying to explain what he's going to do. He's just like, I'm going to do this thing. And hey, watch me now. And you don't know if it's going to be detrimental or not. And I feel like a lot of times it's detrimental. Yeah, he goes out here. Great. He got the Lord Ruler's diary. I'm glad. He got his emo diary. He went and he got some ATM by Lord, rating Ventures spot. He keeps doing this stuff, and he does get these like little bonuses and benefits. At what cost? I mean, Vin got like mortally wounded. I mean, and that's real talk. She got mortally wounded. Without Alamansy, she'd be dead.
Right.
Because it was mentioned numerous times. And at what cost? And he's still going off and doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And it just keeps coming back to him. I feel like he's going to get taken out.
So your favorite character is Kelsier. Got it. So this chapter ends with, Ham, Kelsier thought, I wish I could explain everything to you. Plots behind plots, plans beyond plans. There's always another secret.
Yeah.
There's always another secret.
Always another secret. Definitely true. Definitely true. Yeah.
It's not the first time we heard that quote in this book.
Yep.
There's always another secret.
Mm-hmm.
Anything from this before we move to the final chapter for tonight? Chapter 22.
No. Keep on going. Keep going.
Right. Yeah, so we get to chapter 22, and it starts with Vin reading from the book again. But this time she's reading about Terrace men.
Yes.
We picked up a group of Terrace packmen going through a difficult mountain passage, yet these are not ordinary men. The stories are apparently true. The Terrace men have a remarkable ability that they sleep during the night and are quite weak, but during the day they're super strong.
Yeah.
And they mentioned again, I guess, did they mention that it's called? I think that Sazed does later. But yeah, the leader of the packmen, his name is Rashik. He is rather taciturn. Nevertheless, Branch is inquisitive. Has promised to interrogate him in hopes of discovering how exactly this wonder strength works.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting. So again, the name comes up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So but yeah, when he sees them at night, they look like they're like half dead.
Yeah, half dead.
And then night, and then they
morning time, they wake up and they're like,
muscular. Yeah.
Yep, like Popeye with the Spanish.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, but we're finally finding out some stuff about these characters because I was like, this Terrace, these Terrace people. I'm like, there's something going on, and we're finally getting answers. And I'm like, okay, here we go. Because the earrings thing always was something I kept in the back of my mind. So I was like, earrings, interesting. Because I mean, you have to think about metal in a whole different way than we think about metal in our world.
Oh, sure.
And the fact that they have multiple earrings and whatever going on, and I'm like, I just been clocking it the whole time, and now it's coming to fruition finally.
Yep. Yeah. So yeah, so after she gets done reading this, she thinks I need to talk to Sazed, but she
also comments on how emo the Lord Ruler is. She literally she's like a young Alondo. She's like, oh, he's kind of emo anyway.
Yeah. The Lord Ruler is far more whiny than any god she has a right to be.
Yes, exactly.
So whiny.
Like again, it's like the South Park thing. Man, I'm so tortured.
Yeah. And she, she's by the gardens, by the fountain, and the air was comfortably moist because of the trees overhead shaded her in the afternoon sun. She's like, being nobility, even fake nobility, has its perks.
Yeah.
And then she hears footfall, and she turns around, and it's Spook.
Yep.
What are you doing here?
Yeah. And what's his name again?
Lestibornis.
Lestibornis. Jeez, one day I'm gonna get it straight.
One day
I'm gonna get it straight. But he comes in with the what seems like just a mild gesture.
Gives her a handkerchief, and it gives her a little handkerchief, little hanky, and she's like, "What's this?" She's like, nothing," and runs away.
Runs away.
Okay, like cool. I guess I'll take it. Anyway, it's a pink and white plaid, a simple pink and white handkerchief.
Yeah, so it seems like a minor gesture until you find out later.
Yeah, it's like, that's a strange boy, she thinks.
Yeah.
And she goes to find Sazed. She wants to talk to Sazed about what she read.
Right.
So she goes down, finds him, and she says, "Hey, I got a couple of questions for you. I was reading through the logbook," and Sazed's like, she's like, "Yeah, I've read a lot of it. I suppose, you gave copies to Kellen Breeze, didn't you?" And Sazed says, "Of course." He goes, however, Master Kelsier has asked every member of the crew to read the pages. That's what she's asked. And he says, "I have a few questions. The part where they reach Terrace." And Sazed's like, "Okay, yeah." And then he says, "So tell me more about it."
Yeah.
It's like, well, it used to be lush and green, but now it's a frozen tundra.
Right.
And she's like, "Okay, that's cool, but so tell me more about this power stuff."
And
now
we find out,
like,
it's a whole different thing.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a secret. That they, we tried for 1,000 years now to keep this a secret. And I don't like talking about this. It's like, fine, whatever. And finally, he opens up. He's like, I should be able to trust you. All right. So Yeah, we store things in metal like strength. It's not quite like Allomancy. It's a little different, but we can use it to store memories. So we can use it to store strength. And Vin goes, "What else can you store?" He's like, "I'm not willing to tell you my sight. You wear glasses for like a week."
She figures it out. She's like, "Oh, you were wearing glasses. I saw you, Urkel."
Yeah. And he explained that like the Lord Ruler tried to not only destroy the Terrace, but destroy their religion, destroy everything about Terrace.
Right, because of like, all these religions that this Joker has memory of, the one he does not is their own.
Yeah.
Yeah, that says a lot. It's called what's it called?
Yeah, something like that.
Oh my gosh.
Theory.
Oh my gosh.
Are you talking about the art?
Yeah, the art that the Terrace people can perform.
Ferakimi.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yeah. Which is great. I'm like, and I love the fact. So, it's still using the same metals. Yeah. Thank you so much. I appreciate the comment, correcting me. But use the same metals, but it's just in a different way.
Yes.
And it's a storage mechanism, but it makes all sense. And then, of course, he talks about how he has like metal under his sleeves. Yeah. Like, he's like sleeve, right. What you call them joints? Band. Yeah, thank you. And under his sleeves. And I'm like, okay, this is all coming into play now. Yeah. And it explains why. Because I've always trying to figure out this whole time I've been reading, I'm like, why is there this fear of these Terrace people? And I'm like, well, yeah, because they can use metal in a different way. And imagine being able to store it up. That's got to be dangerous as heck. Right. Because that puts you on a level beyond levels, because all these other folks are burning metal. It's like burn. These guys are putting metal on, because it's not like them earrings disappear.
No, yeah.
Them earrings stay. So that means you just, basically absorb it. I think of it as absorption and usage. It's like absorb, then just use it and just go bananas with it. And I'm like, that's crazy, hella dangerous.
And then refill it.
Yeah, and then refill it. Yeah, just go to sleep. Hey, go to sleep. Just go night, and next morning be like decimation.
Yep.
Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, that's the Lord Ruler tried to eradicate all this. Tried to kill all the Terrace men.
Yeah.
Destroyed their religion. Also tried to ban metals from Terrace men even touching metals, or anyone at all touching metals. Only noblemen could. And Vin's like, why would noblemen wear metals? It seems kind of dangerous around like Allomancers. And it's like, well, whatever the Lord Ruler does, they do. So it's always been kind of part of their culture. But they weren't able to. The Lord Ruler wasn't able to actually ban it completely, and eventually gave up on the genocide. He said, "I don't know why he did. I guess maybe because there's a penalty worse than killing us all by keeping us alive."
Right. And they even talk about the fact that it's like some of the nobility would actually put wood on themselves and paint it to look like metal.
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, that's a smart move. That's a good move. Yeah, good for them. Yeah.
And then Vin does ask about the handkerchief. Says, Spook gave me a handkerchief, and I wonder what it's like. And Says like, oh well, young men in nobility give that to a woman they wish to court.
Yep.
And this is when he says he's too young, he's 15. And he's like, yeah, but aren't you 16? It's like 17.
17. I'm 17. That's different.
It says, it says, well, perhaps people do like, a life, where you have a family. Master Ham's been away from his wife for months. He goes, Ham's married? He goes,
oh, I love this, by the way. Oh, I love this whole section. Yes. The fact that these people actually have families. I love a backstory.
Yeah.
Anytime it's like you can tell me the backstory of somebody, because we have just skipped over it like it's nothing. Oh, this whole section right here. This is Brandon Sanderson. This is masterful writing, because we have thrown their entire backgrounds away like it was nothing. It's like we just reading these characters, and like I'm like, oh, Clubs is my favorite, and I like this guy, and I like this guy. They have lives, and now we're getting them fleshed out. Oh man, you talking about this is like almost like stand-up slow clap writing for me. Please, because it's so easy to dismiss all these quote-unquote minor characters,
right?
And assume it's like, oh well, they're just here for the cause. that's a throwaway line that you say when you just think about the protagonist and the antagonist and not think about these people in between. And they've had to give up, time away from their families, the people they love. And here we go, into that depth. Love it. Again, chef's kiss. Well done. Well done. Loved it.
Yeah. So Yeadon and him definitely have wives. It's normal for them to keep them separate from their underground activities because they want to keep them safe.
Right.
And that's why they're not in the picture.
Yes.
And then Vin's like, what about Breeze and Doxson? He's like, Breeze? No.
Breeze, no. No. Breeze is like, look, I'm Breeze. There's only one person in Breeze's family. It's this character called Breeze.
Good old Breeze.
Yeah.
And Master Doxson goes, he has never spoken of his romantic life, but I expect something painful in his past. It's not uncommon for a plantation ska. And he's like, wait, Doxson's from a plantation? Like Doxson, like the fancy Doxson all the time, walking around with his dueling cane, and
mind blown. And by the way, in Yeadon too, Yeadon also has a family.
Yeah, Yeadon has, yeah.
But I mean, Doxson is like, we know that Doxson's like the right hand man of Kel. That's just that's unequivocal. We know that's the case. And now we're getting into the depths of this. And these next passages, they're so good. Well, this is writing at its best right here. Here we go.
Yep. Yeah, this is indeed. Indeed, yeah, he's from a plantation. Do you ever talk to your friends, mistress? And she's like, friends? I have friends. Oh wow! Like that's his odd realization. Like, he's like, and then they say thank you and they leave. So she goes to find Doxson immediately because she wants to talk to him. And you get to the conversation with Vin. So anything about Sazed first? I'm going to breeze over anything we might have skipped because there's a lot of dump there.
Yeah, there was
about Sazed and about Terrace Man.
Again, this chapter is so jam packed. I feel like we could have made an entire podcast episode about this chapter. It's that good. Yeah, there's that much good stuff happening in a short, and it's a short. I mean, I wouldn't say short chapter like compared to other chapters, but relatively short. And Brandon Sanderson, he's just like a master of just like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and elongate some stuff here and there, and kind of lull you into this sense of like subtlety, and then all of a sudden he's like, oh, now it's like it's not exposition. It's like I'm gonna hit you with all the stuff you were not even considering. Backstories, interconnections, and I was like, oh my gosh, this chapter blew me away. I mean, I am so glad that it wasn't just 2 chapters this week and it was 3. This was the perfect stopping point because it was so good. Writing incredible.
You haven't even experienced your first Sanderlanche yet, so
I'll get there eventually.
Yeah, so the end of every book they call it the Sanderlanche. It's like an avalanche.
Which I always felt that way with the Wheel of Time books.
Yeah,
I always felt like you would feel like it was kind of slow.
Yeah.
And them last 3 chapters, just like so much crazy stuff happens, and you're like, I can't take it. So I'm not surprised if that happens in this book. I'm ready for it. But this has been great. This has been great exposition of information that I appreciated. So yeah.
Yeah. And so gets to talking about Doxson. Asking the news about Kelsier, and Doxson says no, but that's not to be expected. They'll be in the caves for a few days, and it'll be a while before we hear back from Kel. And then she finally broaches the subject. She's like, "So, what was life like on plantation?" She's like, "The plantation, huh? Okay, yeah."
Oh man, Doxson.
Doxson's like, yeah, I grew up on a plantation. We lived in a little community. We weren't allowed to leave without permission, but there was a girl I liked, and we'd sneak away, and the whole crew would cover for us. But eventually, one of the Dolan took her, and that was that.
Oh man!
And it says they all do it. That's what Nolan do. It's completely normal for Nolan to take Scott women. Why do you think there's brothels everywhere? Why do you think it's this? And she's kind of taking back. She's like, they don't all do it. It's like, honey, this is like most of their wives don't even consider it cheating. Like, it's just, this is what Nolan do. Like, and then the obligators are upset if they kept them alive. They have to kill them. Like, so that's what they do. And it's completely part of their society and completely normal.
Yep.
It's like to think that they don't do it, like that's being naive. They all do this. And she's like, but I met them. Like I've partied with them. They're not these type of people. And she's like, oh, you are so naive.
Like, Ben's eyes slowly opening
to
what's been going on. And Brandon Sanderson, I mean, bringing this the equivocation to like slavery, what happened, even just in our real world.
Yeah.
Again, it's brilliant writing because it's like there's so much stuff that happens. It's like you just like brush it off, and he brings it all back and through Vin and says, here she is. She's like, been through like her own, subjugation as a ska, and then she had a conversation, last episode we were talking about, where she didn't know what plantation ska went through, and she was just like, whatever. And the thing that was crazy is listening to Doxson talk about it in almost a pseudo positive way because it wasn't as bad as other plantation ska it went through. And but you're listening to him talk about it, it's like this is a woman he loved.
Yeah.
And he was trying to catch up with, and then some nobleman, basically raped her and then killed her. And he was like,
but he treated us pretty well.
The fact he has any positivity is crazy, and that's the way it works. In this world. And I'm like, wow, this is, again, the fact I had this much of an emotional reaction to it. I'm like, this is writing. This is writing right here. Because it just makes you think about a lot of things. I mean, regardless of whether it's, something here that happened like contemporarily in America or anywhere else. And it just makes you think about the stuff that like people, when you're subjugated to something and you have a tendency to equivocate it to be like, this is just normalcy.
Yeah.
But really it's not. And I'm like, wow, this is great writing because this whole time I've been wondering about Doxson. I'm like, what's his backstory?
Yeah.
Why is Kel so like aligned with this guy? And why is he so upbeat and kind of quote unquote chill about everything? Really, this guy has kind of numbed himself. Emotionally. Again.
He even talks about it. Like he says, they talk about the whorehouses and stuff like that.
Right,
and he says,
right.
And he says, the ska whorehouses, he says, but ska workers, not all of them go visit the whorehouses. He goes, but no women are different then. He says, they're horrible creatures. Why do you think I don't complain when Kelsier kills them? Why do you think we're working to overthrow the government? And he's like, you ask some of those pretty boys you dance with how often they see a ska woman.
Whoa. What a line. What a line. Whew.
They've all done it at one point or another. And Vin looked down. It's
the writing though,
they can't be redeemed.
Lines,
they have to all be killed. Like
these lines hit so hard, man. This is again, I give it up to Brandon. I mean, Brandon just kills it on this one. So like, such good writing, and I appreciated everything about it.
And because like, or some of them just maybe just complacent and like and that's where her argument is like, no, and Doc's like, no, it's not that they're even complacent. This is their culture. Like, 100% through and through. That this is what they do. Like, like you go ask them, they'll probably admit to it freely and just be like, laugh about it.
Be dismissive, just like, oh, it's no thing. Yeah, I see people killed all the time. Oh yeah, this girl got killed because there's a possibility she might have had a baby or blah blah blah.
Vince seen that little bit of silk and not recognizing the ash all around. That's what it is.
Yes, yes, exactly. Thank you, Alan. Man, you summed it up right there. So yeah, but this chapter, what an ending to 3 chapters for this week. You talking about? I was just like, I was floored reading that 3rd chapter, and again, short chapter, but so much depth to that chapter. The book has been incredible so far. I've enjoyed every episode easily.
So it ends with Vin doubting Ellen. Has Ellen ever taken Ska Woman?
And, exactly. Because now she's like, oh wait, what has happened in his realm? I mean, because it's not like he's like some like lowly kind of like middling noble person. I mean, Venture House is pretty substantial, so but the fact that he is interested last episode, and what's going on plantations, because he was asking her a bunch of questions, and she was like dismissive about it. And you got to wonder, is like, was it because he doesn't interact with them at all? Or was he was trying to find out what her take is on things? We don't know yet.
Yeah.
We'll find out, I'm sure. But yeah, again, these 3 chapters, great reading. Reading. Loved it. So, yep.
Indeed. All right. Well, favorite character. There's so many to pick from here.
Wow. This one was jam-packed.
Yeah.
Easily.
These chapters had a lot of good characters.
I would say, I mean, coming to find out that Dachshund has been through so much, that's an easy pick.
Yeah.
But I'm still kind of on that Sazed train though too, because I feel like there's more there. I feel like for all the stuff that Dachshund has been through, I feel like Sazed is going to be like, hold my beer. That's just my take on it. So,
my favorite in this chapter is Marsh. I love Marsh.
Marsh is great. Oh, Marsh is Marsh, because Marsh says everything that I've been thinking every step of the way. He's like, "Hey, Kel, you're being too cavalier. Hey, Kel, you're getting us in trouble. Hey, Kel, blah blah blah." And I'm like, "Yeah." Me and Marsh are saying the same things, but again, I feel like right now, Sazed is my dude, because I feel like, man, that whatever is behind the scenes there is gonna come up and it's gonna like blow my mind whole. So
yeah,
I'm going with him this week.
Yeah.
What about you? What did you choose? Who did you choose?
I said Marsh. Marsh.
Oh, Marsh. I was right.
Yeah,
Marsh.
Marsh.
So yeah. Yeah.
So next week we'll be back and we'll be finishing part 3 with the last 3 chapters, 23, 24, 25. So we'll be finishing that up, and then we're pretty close. I mean, we're over halfway done. So we're this is the
we're getting close. Absolutely,
we're getting close to the ends book. We should be finishing up. Well, it'll still be a little bit of time, but looking forward to it. Actually, I can tell you when we're if we don't stop, we'll be finished first week of August. So
yeah, I was gonna say it's gonna be like 4 more weeks or something.
Yeah, like that, it's a few more, but I think 5 more weeks. But yeah, we're getting there.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah, we're doing a big chapter at the end, just because I'm gonna give you all. I'm not gonna make you stop in the middle of our center lunch. Just
okay.
It's gonna be big reading, but that's okay.
Got it. No worries.
We'll do it. So yeah, and that's all I got for this week. So how we can be found, thecosmicreads.com. Go check us out. We have merch now. We have Patreon, so go support us there. Listen to us. There's links to that. There's links to Discord as well. So you can join the Discord. It's shared with the Wheel Reads Discord. So we do have a section towards the bottom there. If you scroll down through all the channels, there's a whole section on a lot of Sanderson stuff, Cosmere stuff. So go ahead and check it out there. Or like I said, follow us on Twitter. Check out the website. Write reviews. Tell us how you feel about how things are going. Send us emails. All the things. We enjoy it all. So if you write a review, I might read it here on the channel. We'll see. Even if it's a bad one, I'll probably read it because I like reviews.
And by the way, I came in on the Wheel of Fortune joint. That was fun, man. I'm not a participant, by the way. I just make that clear. I would have lost easily, but that's been fun. So make sure you guys catch up on that. Is this the finals that's coming up this next week?
No, we have 2 more playoff rounds, and then it's the finals. So these
got it. But yeah,
three months of finals, and then our playoffs, and then the final.
Yeah, pushing that though, because I enjoy just like participating in that. I don't think I'd win, but it's so much fun. I appreciate.
Well, it all depends on the wheel too. I mean, like we had like last time we had so many people hit bankruptcy. I was just sad. I felt
man.
Bad.
Oh, the timing of some of those bankruptcies are so bad.
Yeah,
I was like, oh gosh, I'm crying for you.
Anyways, yeah, we had a lot of fun with that. We'll be back again next month. I haven't picked a date yet. We're still working on trying to get the contestants and find a date that works for everyone, and it's always tough, but we'll get there. So we'll figure it out. But yeah, come join us. Check out all the other videos and all the channels. It's on the channel. It's fun.
Please do.
Yeah. So that's all I got for tonight. So see you all next time.
Stay